Hello, everybody. Good afternoon. Welcome to our presentation. My name is Adela Corsal from Nice and Green. I'm really pleased to see that you're connecting. Today, we are going to welcome FacePhi, a Spanish public company. FacePhi is one of the best regulatory tech companies in the world and European leader in user identity verification technology, specialized in digital onboarding and biometric. And despite the COVID situation, FacePhi has increased its workforce by 135% and closed 2020 with a turnover of 7.2 million euros, adding more than 20 new international clients. So we will start with a 30-minute presentation when FacePhi CEO and co-founder Javier MIRA will explain you more about the company itself, its business, and the financial strategy. And actually, during the webinar, you can type your questions on your right side. Then the FacePhi investor relation team will present them directly to Javier at the end of the presentation, and Javier will answer them. And then you can also, if you wish, send your questions directly to FacePhi, and their details will be shown on the last slide. You can also download the presentation by clicking on the cloud with Flash, which you see above on the right side. And now I let Javier run the show. Please, Javier.
Thank you very much, Adela, and welcome everyone to this presentation for investors presentation of today about FacePhi. I'm going to do my best in order to try to present the company, to present some of the results that we had last year, that's 2020, with this special condition that we all have because of the pandemic. And the idea is to try to make the presentation as simple as possible to understand technology, what we are doing and what we're going to do in the next 2 to 3 years. And obviously, if you have any doubt, we have our colleagues, Tanya and Sofia, trying to help you in order to receive your questions. I'll do my best in order to answer your questions. So let me just start with the presentation. First of all, who is FacePhi? So FacePhi is a company that was born as an authentication using facial recognition, but now we just became a company really specialized in digital identity. So we manage different biometrics, not only facial recognition, we do voice, we do behavior, and many others. And specifically, we try to provide to our clients a solution related to the digital onboarding processes that today is more than ever a demand from the market. So it's trying to verify the identity of a person when you want to open a new account or whatever, avoiding the presence, the physical presence of the person on the branch offices, for example. By today, we have more than 90 clients, 90 banks using our technology. So the company has a big traction today in terms of number of clients. Also, we do have more than 39 million users that in a daily basis, they use our technology for different processes. Could be authentication for making any transaction with the bank, etc. And we are touching today 3 sectors. We touch banking or finance sector, we touch health, industry, and also insurances. But to be honest, 90% of the revenue today for FacePhi are coming from the financial sector. So we are covering all the regions, and in all the regions, top banks are using our technology by today. As Adela introduced at the beginning, we ended last year with a 7.2 million euros revenue that I will talk a little bit later in detail about this figure. And obviously, as Adela said also, we are listed in the Spanish BME growth market since 2014. So it's already about 6 years, more 6.5. And last year in February, we also got a dual listing with Euronext. So today the company is listed in both markets. The company has received some awards in order to recognize the team and the strength of the team and some of the achievements that we had last year. And the FacePhi just became the best small and medium enterprise in Spain in last year. Is a big award. I think it's the most important award in Spain for a small or medium company. The prize was sponsored by Banco Santander, and the King from Spain came to the celebration and so on. So the company is in a good moment now. The image is very strong, and all these awards are also helping to try to do our best in the coming years. Where are we today? Well, FacePhi is a Spanish company since day one, obviously, but we do have today a global presence, extremely strong in Latin America. Now being strong in Asia Pacific, where we do have today a subsidiary that we opened about 2 years ago with a local structure. We have people there working for FacePhi trying to develop businesses in the area. We already started in South Korea with some cases of success with some banks and some hospitals, but also we open Vietnamese the market in Vietnam with a new partner in order to do the same. So the company has a global presence, and with the idea of the vision that also trying to step into the United States as soon as possible. That is something that we have to stop because of the pandemic, and as soon as possible we want to move again to see whether we have potential in this market. You can see here some of the clients that we are working with, top names like CaixaBank, Sabadell, Samsung Hospital, HSBC, Inbursa in Mexico, and many others. At the same time, we used to resell our technology or integrate our technology in some other solutions from big partners like Everest or IBM, Fujitsu, Unisys, Temenos, and many others. So the company is also in a way of splitting the way that we develop the businesses. Before was direct to the clients, and now we are just combining both modalities, direct to the client, but also using a partnership in some of the specific areas. The company has grown a lot in terms of employees. Pre-pandemic, we were 25 people. By today, we are about 120, and the idea is to close this year with around 200 people. And as you can see in the slide, 64% is engineering. So we pay much attention to the R&D, specifically related to the identity management. This is more or less how is distributed the market in terms of region in some of the top countries that we are doing today. As you can see, as I said before, extremely strong in Latin America, doing the first steps in terms of revenue in Asia Pacific, and also trying to open North America. And in terms of countries, you can see here that in Argentina, for example, it's one of our best markets. It's not any specific reason, it's just we put a lot of focus 2 or 3 years ago in this market with a good partner that we have there, and obviously the results are coming now. If we talk a little bit about what we do, and I don't like to go in a very low detail. Basically speaking, even though we have a lot of solutions and models, the 90% of the revenue are coming from these two solutions. One is called Selfie ID, and the other one is called Selfie. Selfie ID means identification or verification of a person as a new client. So what it does is we just scan the ID, both sides of the ID, and we are capable to extract information, verify that the document is genuine, is original, it's not a fake document. We are capable to match the face appearing on the document versus the face on the selfie, and we are also capable to analyze the image of the selfie and detect if the person is alive or it's a video or a picture. So we call a liveness detection. This process is used, obviously, to onboard a new client in a bank, to onboard a new patient in a hospital, to just onboard a new citizen for some of the transactions with the government, etc. And once you are already on board and the client, the bank in this case, for example, has your own data stored, Then we have the other solution called selfie, that is authentication. We just need to take a selfie of ourselves to do any transaction that the bank is allowing us to do, avoiding the use of passwords, tokens, SMS, and along, etc. On the right side of the slide, you see that, as I said, our strength today is facial in many aspects, but we do have also periocular, voice, fingerprint, behavior, and our clients, they started always with the facial recognition technology and solutions, but once they see the user experience and when they see the satisfaction ratio of the client in terms of using technologies like this, they just are asking us for more, and we have to provide them some more biometrics. Why FacePhi is having such success when we compete with big names like, I don't know, Gemalto, Itemia, big companies? I think we have a very good technology in terms of adoption, in terms of architecture, in terms that we don't manage the data of the customers. The data is always stored on premise. That means on the servers of the bank. We don't send any images of the picture, which is it's an algorithm that it's converting your face into a template in order to protect your privacy. Then we have a lot of support, for example. It's 24/7, so it's very important when we introduce a technology like this that is touching the hands of the end user from a bank. They are really afraid that the user experience has to be perfect. And that's why we cooperate with the bank in terms of developing the flow, developing the security channels, developing the interface, colors, screens. So we just cooperate with the bank in order to provide the best possible user experience. And it's something that it's, at the end, the user experience, the passive liveness, for example. We are capable to detect that the person is alive, and we are not asking the user to move the head, to speak, to blink the eyes. You don't have to do anything at all. You just have to take a picture of yourself, a selfie, and using AI, intelligence artificial, we are capable to detect or analyze the image and to detect if there is a video or an image in a 99% basis. So it's completely accurate. And what about the business model? How we make money about these technologies? Well, obviously, it's a licensing process. We are capable to license when a bank wants to use the technologies in terms of selfie or selfie ID. We have two options. We can just do licensing per user. That means that if a bank wants to use facial recognition to make authentications for any transaction, in that case, normally is per user and per year. I'm talking in general, and that means that any user can just use the technology as many times as possible. And when we are talking about selfie ID, that is the digital onboarding process, in that case is per use. So obviously, normally all the banks are starting for the digital onboarding process, and they are just acquiring or buying some licensing for authentication. In that case, you can see on the right part of the slide that out of the revenue, almost 60% of the revenues are recurrent and 42% are non-recurrent. And this is something that is repeating every year. So it's a good percentage for recurrent revenues. And what the company has been achieving until now, which milestones? Well, I can move back to the 2019 when we opened, as I said before, the new subsidiary in South Korea. Obviously, for us, it was very important to join the project of Nice and Green in terms of investment, because obviously the company is in the moment that the product is completely on trend. It's a big demand of technologies like this. The product is already tested and the traction is good. So we just arrived to an agreement with Nice and Green in order to try to boost the sales and the growth of the company. In 2020, we acquired Certic, thanks to the funds coming from Nice and Green. And we had the first contract, for example, in Asia with NNSS Smart. We got listed also in Paris at the beginning of the year with the pandemic. And in September, we were able to develop the first 100% digital onboarding process in South Korean market. This is really a milestone because we were capable, the company was capable to make a joint venture with the bank and with the regulators in Korea and try to change regulation in the country. And now they allow to have to use this type of technologies that are 100% contactless in all the banks in South Korea. So it was a milestone quite important for us. By the end of last year, 2020, we also arrived a new agreement with Nice and Green. In this case, is until 20 million investment in order to boost the sales of or the growth of the company. And we are on the move right now because obviously we came, as I said before, from 20 something people to 120 now and expanding a lot the company. And in 2021, we just received a couple of awards, as I was mentioning, and a couple of new markets that we just entered. You can see here the growth of the company in terms of revenue and EBITDA. And you can see that practically from 2016, the company has been profitable, positive EBITDA, the growth quite nice. But it's true that if you can compare 2019 and 2020, you can see that we just move a little bit down. Revenue, it went down also EBITDA. However, in terms of number of clients that we signed in 2020 compared with 2019, we just signed another 22 new contracts in 2020. So we increased a lot the number of new agreements. However, obviously, because of the pandemic, budgets from banks have been reduced a lot, and that makes that the first orders of the bank has been reduced quite importantly. And it makes that if we had a first order of, let's say, 100,000 licensing users, the banks are asking a little bit more, a little bit less as a first stage, and obviously will become in more volume for the next months. So it's true that we just signed more contracts, but the revenue just came back about an 11% more or less. This slide is talking about the movement on the stock exchange market. You can see a huge change from the first years of the company being listed, 16, 17, 18. In 19, we just have somehow an increasement, but also in 2020, you can see that the liquidity of the company in the market has been really strong in terms of shares, but also in terms of cash. And why is interesting investing in this company and in this sector, I would say, because obviously the market, as I said before, this type of solutions that are related to identity management, can be biometric or not, are extremely on demand now. Every sector is asking to improve the relationship between end users and big corporations. And they want to do that through electronic channels, smartphones, tablets, and obviously it's really important, the user experience. And in that part, biometrics are extremely important today. The company is not just selling facial recognition. We do multi-factor biometric solutions now. So the portfolio of product is increasing a lot in order to be well positioned in the coming years. And obviously the company today, the track record that we have in terms of clients portfolio, it's on the top. So FacePhi is working with HSBC, is working with Santander, CaixaBank, ICBC, Sabadell, Inbursa, and 90 more banks that they are completely satisfied with the technology, completely satisfied with the provider, with the support that FacePhi is providing them. And this is the first letter you can have, because every time that there is a new project, a new bank asking about this solution on FacePhi, we always talk to some of the references that we have in order to speak about our technology and about our company. Then we have here some information about the market, the growth of the market in the coming years from Markets and Gartner. I don't want to go in detail, but basically speaking, what it says is that the tendency of this type of solutions are going to be big growth in the coming years in many aspects and in many sectors. And what are the expansion plans for the company? Well, obviously, one of the questions that I receive a lot is why we are just focused on finance sector and we don't touch, I don't know, airlines, telcos, e-commerce, and governments, etc. Well, obviously, FacePhi was focused on financial sector because we needed to be sure that the technology somehow was implemented in this sector. And if financial sector was accepting this technology, obviously, many other sectors will be open because regulation is not that hard that it is in the financial sector. But what it happened is that when we had 5 to 10 banks, the reaction of many other banks was exactly the same. They wanted to start using this technology. So now we see a huge potential in financial sector, but at the same time, we created a new area with new people, new staff, in order to develop several verticals. As I said, we already have clients in hospitals, we already have some clients in insurance, and we have some expectations in, for example, airlines to start using this technology. We promote the innovation. We have 5 people 4 years ago in charge of R&D. Today, we have about 60 people in terms of research and development of product. So we pay much attention to the R&D, and we invest a lot of money in the R&D because we are completely sure that is the future of the company. We are attracting new talent. Before we were geographically only in the southeast of Spain, in Alicante. Today, all the world has been open now with the pandemic, so we are very used to work at home and using all the tools. And we see this as an opportunity. So we just hired talent from Madrid, Barcelona, Latin America, South Korea, helping the team. So the structure of the company today is more global than ever. Also, we have financial muscle. As I said before, the company today has the resources in order to boost the growth or push the growth of the company as much as possible. We have the project with Nice and Green, but at the same time, we also closed the deal with Banco Santander and 4 other banks, another 13 million in debt in case that we need to do any inorganic acquisition, for example. That is something that we have on mind. We did last year with Acertic, and we are analyzing and trying to study any potential option that could bring the company some solution that could be combined in order to develop the market, or a company that could be a good partner for the company for the next future. And obviously, new certifications is something that it's mandatory for us, and we are paying attention to the new certifications in order to start working with several sectors, not only the financial. So having said that, the resume because I think is the last slide. Let me just get back. My final words would be, we think that we have a company with a technology tested, with a technology that is being really accepted, and the ratio of satisfaction on the client and on the end user is extremely high, with millions and millions of people using the technology. At the same time, we have a demand of the market that are asking extremely strongly to use this type of technologies, and we receive calls every single day about this technology, how it can be implemented, etc., etc. We have also the finance to make the company big. That means opening new offices in the United States, in Asia, to hire new people, talent, etc. So I think that we have all the bases, the pillars, in order to make the company a big company in the coming 2 to 3 years. So I hope that you can understand a little bit about FacePhi, that you like what we are doing. We are very happy and proud of what we achieved until now. But the most important is that we are completely sure that the future is going to be quite nice for all of us. So thank you very much. And I'm just open to see your questions. Thank you.
Yes, so we actually have many questions. First of all, thank you so much for the interest. We're going to try to go through as many as we can, but of course, here we have our email dedicated to investors. So if we cannot answer your question today, of course, feel free to send it to us to that email and we will be happy to answer to you. So I'm just going to start with the first one we have from Miguel. He says, when you quoted 90% of revenues from financial sector, that includes just banks or also other companies from the financial sector?
Well, this is a good question. But out of this 90% that is covering financial institutions, I would say that probably another 90% are banks, because we do have some fintechs and some other companies related to financial sector, but not specifically banks. But I would say it's a small part of the businesses. So 90% of these 90% are specifically banks.
Perfect. Thank you. So the next one is from Tim. Thank you for sending it. So he says that FacePhi is strong in the Latin American market, but what are the main difficulties to grow in the European Union, North America, or Asia, and what are these steps and actions we're taking?
Well, each region is different. The thing is that now regulation, it's something that is really important when someone wants to implement or integrate this technology in your own bank. So European regulation, it's much stronger than regulation in many other regions. That's why FacePhi is adapting the business development to exactly the situation of the regulation in each country. If you go to England, the UK, regulation it's a little bit, with this regulation, is much more easier to try to develop the businesses than what it is in the European Union. What we had in Asia Pacific, for example, they are changing very fast the regulation in order to adapt these new technologies and try to implement. In the terms of the United States, it's almost the same. Regulation is applied in some of the states that you can just work with the digital onboarding process 100% free, let's say, contactless. In some other states are not. So FacePhi is adapting depending on the market. So the more we see the regulation is accepting small changes to start implementing this type of technologies, the more focus is FacePhi making in the market.
Perfect. So the next one is from Oliver. It's regarding self-ID. So he wants to know if it's compatible with any official document or if it's only available for certain countries.
Yeah, we have today, I don't have the accurate data, but I think we have more or less about 150 countries documents already that we can just read and analyze and verify the document. But in any case, if for example, we have a new country interested in a new document, could be a driver licensing or whatever, it takes about 3 to 4 weeks to make the algorithm to start extracting the information from the document. So it's not a big issue for the company, a new market where we have not. But in any case, we have more than, as I said, around 150 countries already that we can recognize the document.
Thank you. So the next one is from Michael. So he says that we are adding a lot of staff, and he assumes this will increase the operational costs. Do we feel that employee growth can be offset by revenue growth? Do we expect a fast ramp up now with new clients?
Absolutely. I mean, we are hiring a lot of people in as I said, in R&D, for example, because we want to push a lot the product department. But at the same time, we do have a structure in many of the countries that we are making businesses today with a local presence. And this is obvious something that will bring some more businesses to the company. It's obvious that it's not going to be in 1 month, but we are completely sure that they will come by the end of this year, before 22, obviously.
Thank you. So the next one is from Grant, and he says, are there any privacy issues with storing some of the biometric features? And are there geographic limitations on where we can offer this technology based on data sovereignty concerns?
This is a very good question, and today we have on the table almost every day the same question about privacy, and it's one of the biggest concerns in terms of biometrics, for example. It's really important to know or to underline that FacePhi is paying much attention to this, to the regulation and to the privacy. So, for example, we just sealed a couple of years ago a term that is called ethical biometric. Ethical biometric means that FacePhi is paying much attention, and anyone that is using FacePhi's technology, before using the technology, we ask for the permission. So we are completely avoiding or trying to avoid any project related to video surveillance where the citizen is not giving its own permission to be recognized. So always that FacePhi is putting the technology on the hands of a new user. This new user is accepting the terms and conditions before that. And we don't manage, we don't store any data of the user.
Thank you. So the next one is from Robert. He wants to know how much we devote to R&D on an annual basis, the percentage, and also what's the average lifetime of our technology.
I don't have accurate information, but basically we are about 120 people today, and we are more or less 80 to 85 people in engineering in all departments. You more or less can have an idea that 60-65% probably of the budget of the staff is going to R&D. And the second question, Sofia, I don't remember.
Yeah, so the second one is, what is the average lifetime of our technology?
Well, the technology lifetime, it's quite long, but it doesn't mean that it doesn't change, because the facial recognition that we had at the beginning of the story, that means 2014-15, is completely a different technology from the technology that we are selling today. So all the models in terms of liveness, accuracy, size of the template, etc., it's been also advancing every single year, let's say. So the life cycle for that probably is going to be quite long, because biometrics are here to stay and are here to stay for a long period. What is going to happen is that probably in some few years, passwords and some other tools like this will disappear because of the biometrics.
Thank you. So the next one is from Michael, and he wants to know more about the current cash position and cash flow, and if you think that we will need to raise more cash from shareholders. I actually have a graph I can share so we can support this answer. Just a second. I'm just going to share my screen.
Yeah, you can see here that the cash flow of the company position is very good, but that's not important. The important thing is that what we have, the agreement we have with Nice and Green, and the agreement that we have also with the financial institutions of another 13 million, is giving us the possibility of making the company extremely fast in order to grow in many regions. If we need to raise some more money, probably it's going to be in the next, I would say, 24 months. Before 24 months, or maybe even more than that, the company is not going to need any cash or any investment in order to push the sales, because obviously we have done this operation in advance, and we are really prepared to invest this money in the growth of the company.
Perfect, thank you. So the next one would be from Sabine. She says, I understand your clients are big companies. Is your product cost effective for smaller companies as well?
I don't get the question, Sofia.
So she says that that it's something that big companies can afford, but she wants to know if it's also a possibility for smaller companies to implement a technology like ours.
Yeah, absolutely. To work with big banks doesn't mean that big banks are paying a lot of money. Sometimes small companies are paying much more money than the big ones. But the solution of FacePhi is it's depending on the volume. So we work with new startups related or new fintechs, where they have a very small volume of clients today, and they are asking a solution like FacePhi for digital onboarding process, and we adapt the cost of the solution to these small companies in order to be scalable. Our idea is that the technology has to be scalable. We've seen in all of our clients that they start with a small amount of volume, with a small piece of the budget, and with the years, they are becoming more and more because they are using more and more licensing. So the technology is prepared to cover small companies for a cost-effective issue, but also for the key big corporations.
Thank you. So the next one is from Tim. He says, concerning your business model, could you explain why the strategy is to go for a licensing process? Could you do a business model in two parts, licensing and own sales, for example?
Well, licensing means own sale. I don't get the question. I mean, the licensing doesn't mean that we give a license to the client to do whatever they want to do. I mean, at the end, the business model is what we sell is a license that is somehow it's depending on the volume, depending on the time, and depending on the platform. So, for example, if a client says, I want to use only selfie for 1 year and for 1 million people, you give a license specific with these specifications, terms and conditions. Probably this client then is saying, I want to increase the number of users from 1 million to 5, for example, but also we want to cover not only the smartphone, but the web banking or ATMs. So we give a license for 3 platforms for more people. So this is the business model that we operate. It's nothing to do that licensing and own sales are different. We only sell licensing per user or per use, but always licensing. Okay. I cannot hear you, Sofia.
Sofia, the mute.
Right, yeah. So the last one would be, since your company is growing in terms of client coverage, could you provide more details on future geographies covering direct selling or selling through a partnership approach?
Well, we definitely take the decision of using partners to try to cover more the areas and different regions, and that's why in one of the slides you were able to see some of the names like Everest or IBM or many others. Obviously, FacePhi is a company that is growing a lot, but we are still a small company, so we like to go step by step. We know that we have a lot of things to do, but at the same time, we need to do the projects in the best way possible. That means that depending on the partner and depending on the market, we will be able to push more or less. Basically speaking, we know that Latin American market is going to be still the #1 market in terms of revenue for us in the next 2 years. Asia is something that we want to push, and we do have partners in the area in Japan, in Hong Kong, Taiwan, in South Korea that are helping us to develop the businesses. And one of the keys that we want to do is to try to replicate the same system in the United States. I would focus probably in these 3 areas.
Perfect. So I think that's all for today in terms of questions. But as I said before, feel free to reach out to us to that email you see in the screen, and we will be happy to reply to you from our investor relations department. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Javier, for this great presentation. For Nice and Green, it's really amazing to see the achievements you already done and the future development it's coming up. And we are really proud to be your financial partner. And
thank you very much.
I would like to thank all the participants also for being with us today, and have a nice afternoon. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
All set?
Yeah.